Friday Night Funkin' is a game that needs no introductions, being one of the most popular indie titles in the last few years, and like many games before it, a large chunk of its popularity has to come from its huge modding scene. Vujade, huh? If you're watching this video, you either came from the Shucks video or already watched that. When that video came out, I added a little note in the description where I mentioned that I would eventually tackle the entire mod that Shucks came from, that of course being Endless Ethos / Infinite Irida. Irida. Okay, I get it. There, it's fucking Irida. Are you happy now? You can now shut the fuck up about it. I get it. It's not iData, it's Irida. I fucking get it. That's how life works. You data and you writer. Jesus Christ. Anyway, also, I know it's not Irida, but I'm gonna keep saying that just to piss people off. Jeffy's Endless Ethos is a Friday Night Funkin' mod based off the ARG SML wiki, which would eventually evolve into a mod that includes multiple other SML horrors, from real episodes to creepypastas to even original concepts for the mod. This mod was filled to the brim with not only spooktacular songs, but also overwhelming charm. This mod was really promising looking until both iterations of the mod were, as most of you probably know, cancelled. Mostly due to drama, but this is not the video for that. Also, I'm not going to go over any of the backstory on how Aethos / Irida got started, because I already did that in the Shucks video, so go watch that, or else you'll be left in the dark. Since Jeffy's Endless Ethos came out, it's changed and evolved quite a bit. Many people have worked on this mod, which means many songs have been made as well. But what exactly are those songs? Well, Jeffy's Endless Ethos and Infinite Irida both have different songs, while also having some returning songs as well. To be frank, this was pretty hard to research, as there's a lot of conflicting information. Some songs were never finished, some songs I don't think were even part of either Aethos or Irida. It's just a whole shit show, but I think I have a comprehensive list of all the songs present in both Aethos and Irida. First we have Aethos, then Obsolete, later renamed Cordyceps, Revenant, Winner, Shuck, later Shucks, E.X.Ecretion, House Pavement, Body Floating Towards Me, later The Corpse Is Mocking Me, Melting Cody, a song I don't think was ever finished, Sleepwalker, another song I don't think was ever finished, and then of course ending it off with Irida. Now again, there could be songs missing or songs I got wrong, but either way, there's a lot on my plate as is, so I think it's about time we should tackle each of these songs one by one, starting with Aethos. Also, before we begin, yes, there are definitely some songs missing, which I purposely left out, because not only is there not enough information about them, but also I don't really want to talk about them, because they sound like shit. Most were made by Sling, so yeah. Also, a few of them were work in progresses, so they don't really count. Also, most of the information comes from the wiki, so if I got anything wrong, it's not my fault. It's the wikis, because nothing is ever my fault. Okay, onto the video. Fuck you. Okay, so this was recorded way after the fact, like, as I started editing, I just started doing more research for the video, and this next part is a fucking mess due to so much conflicting information about the composers. So there's a very high chance that I definitely got the composers for each of the songs wrong, because there's so many different conflicting sources of information. So the composers' names I show off are based on the leak build of Irida that came out a few months ago. So again, if it's wrong, that's why. I try to do it as correct as I possibly could, but this whole fucking thing is a shit show. The way this video is going to work is I'll be looking at the songs each one by one, not only giving my thoughts about them, but also a little bit about their backstories, like who composed them and where they originate from, and etc. We'll start this video off by, of course, looking at Aethos, the very first song of this ensemble of suffering. Before we get into the song itself, we have to back up a little bit. The story of Aethos / Irida, to my understanding, goes as follows. Aethos / Irida takes place after the SML episode named Jeffy's Tantrum, where Mario, later named Marvin, wouldn't buy Jeffy an app from the App Store. This then, I think, leads to Jeffy turning into Dark Jimmy, which Dark Jimmy technically originates from a YouTube video called SML Amazing Grace, which spawns this iconic design. Also, side note, this thing is actually really fucking creepy. Now, the story, as I just told, might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's roughly the plot. At least that's what I've gathered from what I've been told. However, the mod and song itself is based off an ARG called SML Wiki. I would go more in depth into the SML Wiki, but it would take up like the entire video, so I'd rather not do that. To simplify, it's a creepypasta type experience where you go around clicking through the website and finding all creepy secrets and just gawking at it, I guess. I think it's a pretty cool project, and I definitely see why Sling decided to make a mod about it. It's a very unique concept. What about the song itself? Well, I'm gonna say this right off the bat, the song sucks. Like, really sucks. It's not composed very well. For one, Marvin and Jeffy's chromatics sound way too similar. It gets to the point where it's kind of hard to tell who's singing the different parts of the song without any visuals. This is probably because both Marvin and Jeffy's chromatics are sampled from Logan and Lance screaming. Secondly, the art. The art is kind of shoddy. Aethos' gimmick is changing its art style multiple times throughout the song. A total of 4 art changes occur, each of them looking, I'd say, slightly better than the last, but it's still not very good. I know the first phase is drawn the way it is on purpose, but even when it switches to a more serious art style, it still looks pretty bad. Not that I'm a good judge at art, because I can't draw most of the basics still, but I think they could have done a little bit better, especially the animation part, because I think the animation is bad. I think the animation part is bad because supposedly the person who put it together couldn't actually animate, which, fair enough, I can't either. I assume it's Sling not being able to afford another animator, so he just settled with this. While this song is quote-unquote iconic, I still think it's not very good. The lyrics, I will say, for the most part, are fine enough. The AI Jeffy filter definitely makes it sound a bit weird when you listen with headphones, but overall, I do think the lyrics work. There's also this weird long pause in between phase 3 and 4, where you just stare at this photo until eventually transitions into phase 4. I'd say phase 4 is the only good phase, mostly because I find it funny how both the chromatics are sampled from Marvin and Jeffy swearing. But for now, that's Aethos. Again, as harsh as it may seem, I don't really like this song. It's not composed well, the art is pretty rough, and the lyrical section, while iconic, is teetering a bit with quality. I will say definitely an interesting way to start the mod. However, the next song we're going to be talking about is definitely a step up in every way possible. Kinda. From this point on, I stopped calling it Irida and pronounce it as it's supposed to be Irida. So you can fuck off with that.
You took my own life, a life that still had a sunshine.
Now we move on to the next song, Obsolete, later renamed Cordyceps. This song puts you, Marvin the player, against Mario, named in this mod Flower Boy. This song isn't based on any particular creepypasta or episode, it's an original concept made for the mod, having Marvin face off against the ghost of his past, that of course being Mario. I actually kinda lied about this being an original mod concept for the mod. Well, kinda. It's actually based off an event that took place sometime in February 2021, where the SML crew would be served a cease and desist from the Big N themselves. Because of this, they had to stop using all of Nintendo's trademark characters, Mario included, which is why Mario and Rosalina were turned into Marvin and Rose. Because of this, Logan had to stop using a bunch of other characters, but most importantly, they had to change their name from Super Mario Logan to just simply SML. And in my opinion, from this point onwards, SML wasn't really the same again. The character stayed loosely the same, but the quality itself took a nosedive. Not that it was all that impressive beforehand, but, you know, semantics. Apparently this song is another one of those distorted memories, kind of like Shucks. It seems like Doc Jimmy's plan is to torment Marvin with the past, only distorted in a way where it breaks him. But I could be reading way too deep into this. Anyway, getting back to the song itself, this is probably one of the best songs in the mod. Not my favorite, but definitely one of the best. Starting off with Obsolete, composed by Sling Mingo. I didn't mention this beforehand when I was talking about Aethos, but a lot of these songs from Aethos were composed by Sling, which kinda sucks because not only do some of them sound actually pretty good, but they're also permanently attached to Sling's name, which really fucking sucks. But we'll ignore that for now. I should also preference by saying a lot of these songs won't have very comprehensive visuals, because a lot of the songs I'll be showing off, especially the ones present in Aethos, come from the Endless Aethos / infiniteirida wiki, which don't provide any visuals, only the MP3s. So I'll just have to use the current versions of each of the songs playing as background footage, and just a little heads up. One more thing I'll preference before we actually get into the song itself is just like the Shucks video, I'm going to be showing off the most prevalent versions of each of the songs, because a lot of them have multiple versions. However, I'm only going to be showing off the very first version and the most current version. So with that being said, why don't we actually get into the song itself, fucking finally. Obsolete is not good. In fact, it was scrapped twice because Sling didn't like how they were mixed, and yeah, I can definitely see why. These are not good songs. Everything about this song is just all kinds of wrong. From the mixing, to the chromatics, to the melody itself, it's just not a very pleasant experience. It doesn't help with the fact that a good chunk of these Aethos versions of Irida songs are largely unfinished, making them very difficult to talk about. Because what else am I going to talk about besides how terrible they sound? Now, comparing it to the most recent version, called Cordyceps, it blows it out of the water tenfold. The lyrics in Obsolete also aren't very good, especially compared to Cordyceps. Cordyceps is largely a way better song, mostly due to the composers, that being... Comparing Obsolete to Cordyceps, it becomes immediately obvious that both of these songs have drastically different tones, with Obsolete taking a more angry approach and Cordyceps taking a more somber approach. This is also reflected in the lyrics. The lyrics with Obsolete definitely had the undertone of anger, with Mario being upset that Marvin replaced him, leaving him in the dust, compared to Cordyceps' version where it's more lamentful. Mario was replaced and there's nothing he can do about it. It feels like these lyrics portray Mario as seeing his replacement with Marvin as something that isn't Marvin's fault, and as such, Mario doesn't blame Marvin, but it still hurts him, and by the end of the lyrics, it seems like Mario has completely accepted the fact that Marvin has replaced him, with the lyrics, "You're the butterfly and I'm the parasite." The glow up this song got was nothing less than a miracle. Comparing the two songs is night and day, but honestly that's kind of how both Aethos songs are, compared to their Irida counterparts, but not all of them. However, I think that's the case for Obsolete in Cordyceps. Also, I decided I'm going to make a tier list for this video just to spice the video up a little bit, so yeah, Obsolete goes into C tier and Cordyceps goes into A tier. The next song we have is Revenant, which pits you, the player, who takes control of Junior, Joseph, and Cody against Chef PP. I just realized the fact if you have no idea what SML is, and you somehow found this video, you're not gonna know any of these characters. Whoops. Revenant is actually based off of an SML creepypasta called I'm Sorry Chef PP. The creepypasta itself is pretty old, springing up sometime in either 2018 or 2017, and is easily one of, if not the only, well-known creepypastas for SML. The basic rundown of the creepypasta goes as follows. One day in 2017, SML uploads a video called I'm Sorry Chef PP, where Junior kills Chef PP, who then rises from the dead and kills Jeffy and Junior, which then leads to the song. Revenant, just like the other songs present in Aethos and Irida, both have two main versions, with the first one being composed by Sandy, of all people, wow, okay, and the second one being composed by Kane Sucks and Cokers_. Just like with Cordyceps, both versions are somewhat drastically different from each other, with Sandy's approach being more mellow and Kane and Cokers' version being more intense. Starting with Sandy's version, it's a pretty good song, of course, because, well, duh, it's Sandy. They made bangers like Starman Slaughter. This is one of those songs where the backing track and vocals are very distinct from one another, and makes it a very enjoyable listening experience. While this version of the song isn't my cup of tea per se, it doesn't mean it's bad, it's just not what I like to hear when I listen to F&F music. More specifically, it's not very intense compared to its Irida Resurrection. Again, that's not to say it's bad or anything, it's just not my type of song. The lyrics are also a pretty big part of Revenant, and honestly, it's the one part of the song that I truly don't like about it. Not because they're bad, but because they're pretty hard to hear. This version of the lyrics, in my opinion, fit more with the original creepypasta, with lines like, "My blood stains the floor," and "dying in your schemes." The lyrics also make reference to the fact that Chef PP is, well, a chef, with lyrics like, "The pot overflows, my hands are numb, the flames roar louder." However, it's with the revival in Irida, where Revenant would be pushed to its full potential, being composed by Shucks and Cokers_. Irida's Revenant is easily one of the best in the OST, being far more intense than the original, while also being more bombastic and more grounded. This version of Revenant really slams its foot down and stands its ground, which is a weird way of explaining it, I know, but once you listen to those two songs back to back, it makes more sense. While at first the song starts off as a pretty standard Friday Night Funkin' song, it's after Cody and Joseph leaves where the song picks up quite a bit in intensity, and it's amazing. Not before long, Chef Pee takes Junior to what I assume is hell, and that's where we get the best part of the song, the lyrics. I say this with no exaggeration. This is the best lyrics in the entire mod. Yes, even better than Shucks. The lyrics are filled with such hatred. With every word you can hear the disdain Chef Pee has for Junior. It's powerful. While with Sandy's approach with Revenant's lyrics, it definitely seemed like it was more specifically referring to the creepypasta. Contrastly with Shucks and Cokers_'s approach, it's more referring to Chef Pee's life in general, with the first lines being lies, hate, and your cries, directly referencing his relationship with both Bowser and Bowser Jr. If you don't know, in the actual SML show, yes, I know it's not a real fucking show, but go along with it, Chef Pee is constantly being treated like shit by everyone around him, more specifically by Junior and Bowser, which is what these lyrics are referring to. I'm pretty sure, at least. I don't know, I might be reading too far into this. In my opinion, the lyrics alone lands Irida's version of Revenant in S tier. While it's not my favorite song, it definitely has my favorite lyrics, and that alone puts it in S tier. However, Aethos' version of Revenant goes only in B tier. Good, but pales in comparison to Irida's version. The next song we're going to be talking about is Winner, which pits you against Pooby and Lavelle, two actual people who work on SML, most notably voicing Brooklyn T. Guy and Chef Pee respectively. This song is based on the SML Wiki ARG, with both Pooby and Lavelle resembling their portraits used. A weird thing about Winner is that it's one of the few songs that were never remade or even attempted to be brought back in Irida, unless I completely missed that. I don't know why, because in my opinion, this is definitely one of the best songs from the original Aethos concepts. It's by all means nothing too impressive, but still definitely a really catchy tune, especially in version 2, where a bunch of old computer sounds are used, like the old internet boot up sound. It's a pretty good song. For as much as I don't like Sling, he did a pretty good job on Winner. One of the weird things about Winner is the fact besides Aethos itself, it's the only song that's based off of the SML Wiki ARG. Most of the other songs are original concepts, with the exception of a few. Besides, again, Aethos, Winner is the only one based off of the original ARG that inspired the mod, which I find kind of strange. I would expect it to be more. Well, sure, I could be missing a few songs that I purposely excluded from the video. That also kind of sucks, because Winner is also a pretty underrated song, being one of the least popular out of the original Aethos bunch. It's pretty rare for me to go online and see anyone talking about Winner or acknowledge its existence. It's a good song that's somewhat forgotten, but it's not anything too groundbreaking. It also has a lyrical section which is pretty decent, but compared to all the other lyrical sections in the other songs, it's nothing too noteworthy. Despite me liking this song a lot, I'm going to have to place it in B tier, because it's just a standard Friday Night Funkin' song. Next up, we have E.X.Ecretion, which pits the player against, Jesus Christ, I can't believe I'm about to say this, against Poop Warrior. Dumb fucking name aside, this is without a doubt my favorite song in the OST, and by a long shot at that. From the vocals, to the melody, to the lyrics and art, to even Poop Warrior himself, this song is awesome. The song isn't based on any already existing SML media, instead being an original concept made for the mod, although being inspired by Sonic.exe. This is evident from not only the song being called E.X.Ecretion, but also Poop Warrior's second phrase looking a lot like that red and blue demonic blur. So what's the story of E.X.Ecretion? Well, from what I've gathered from the lyrics, I'm pretty sure this song takes place after Jeffy's parents, where Jeffy's real father, Jacques Pure Francis, dies, leaving a huge sum of money behind, prompting Jeffy's real mother to return and take him back so she can obtain the money his father left for him. The end of the episode has Jeffy returning back to Marvin and Rose and being officially adopted. However, in E.X.Ecretion, it takes place in a different timeline where Jeffy doesn't return. After years of building hatred, Jeffy now returns to confront Rose, which then leads us to the events of the song. Sitting at 7 minutes long, E.X.Ecretion, as I said previously, is my favorite song in the entire OST by a long shot. Not only is it the best composed song out of the soundtrack, but it's also one of the most unique, easily separating itself from all the other songs. A big chunk of this has to do with the fact that you don't play as Marvin, which means you can rest knowing you don't have to listen to Marvin's ceramics for the 50th time in a row. In my opinion, this is one of the only tracks in the OST that doesn't have anything immediately that pops out as terrible, with some of the other songs I like having parts that just don't sound very good or just are a bit iffy. E.X.Ecretion doesn't have that problem. The entire 7 minutes of the track sounds phenomenal. E.X.Ecretion is probably one of my favorite Friday Night Funkin' songs in general. Everything that makes the song what it is amazing, especially the sprites. They have like this charm to them that makes them very pleasing to look at. And that goes double for the backgrounds, as they're some of the best in the mod. I also find it really funny during the song out of nowhere Jeffy says this. I don't know why, it just cracks me up. This song also has its own lyrical section, much like the other songs. While at first it does sound weird, at least the original version, these are some of my favorite lyrics. Peak, just absolute peak, brother. This entire song is just really well done and has some of the best vocals in FNF history, like my favorite part. I think the entire song is amazing, if you couldn't figure that out by now. So without a doubt, E.X.Ecretion goes into S tier. Great song, best in the OST, couldn't possibly get any better, except maybe getting my hands on one of those Poop Warrior plushies. The next song we have is called The Body Floating Towards Me / The Corpse is Mocking Me. The song pits you, the player, up against Evil John, some sort of distorted version of Jeffy. One of the original people who worked on Aethos revealed that Evil John is based off of a movie where a girl finds her own body floating in a river, floating towards her, called Lake Mungo, and that John is Jeffy's corpse. In the song you play as a new character, officially called Dennis P. Snizzle, who presumably encounters Evil John. The song itself is weird, at least the first version of it is, being only what I can describe as a drug trip. Both the vocals and backing melody sound distorted as hell. A lot of the times the vocals are just random noises, random screaming throughout, random noises constantly playing through the entire song. It's just one giant mess and it's very hard to even listen to because of how chaotic and overwhelming it is. Also, for some fucking reason, chat editing is used in the song. Oh, okay, pal. Quite frankly, it's hard to even call this a song in general. It's just a mess, and half the time, it loops the same beat over and over again for a good minute or two. It speeds up and slows down for no discernible reason. It doesn't even sound good, and just in general, the whole song is just not very good. It's very hard to listen to. You can't even hear the chromatics at all, and quite frankly, I think it's done on purpose. Yeah, you know, no shit, Sherlock, but still doesn't make it any less of a bad song. So what about The Corpse is Mocking Me? Thankfully, it's more of a song than Body Floating Towards Me was. Not really. Sure, the Corpses Mocking Me does have more of a rhythm and more discernible sounds than Body Floating Towards Me does, but that doesn't save it from feeling directionless and chaotic as well. The vocals sound quite terrible, the background sounds fine enough, but the vocals are so distractingly terrible it's quite hard to listen to. I will say I do like the sprites for Evil John, they look really well done, same thing with the background, but that's the only real thing saving this otherwise nauseating, headache-inducing, life-shortening dumpster fire of a song. However, I will say there is a version of The Corpses Mocking Me / Body Floating Towards Me that has Evil John as the opponent that's much better, that song being called Parasite. I'm not gonna go in depth with Parasite because quite frankly I don't even think it's part of Aethos or Irida, but it's without a doubt the best song that features Evil John. It's a really good fucking song that you should definitely go out of your way and go listen to, because I have throughout the entire duration of this video's production. Anyway, these songs are not very good. They're the only group of songs that I generally do not like. At least with Aethos, it had a little bit of a saving grace with the lyrics, but there's nothing here. Especially Body Floating Towards Me, which ends up in the D tier with Aethos, and Corpses Mocking Me ends up in C tier. Not very impressed. I know some people are gonna have a problem with the way I talk about certain songs, but like, honestly, I couldn't give less of a fuck.
The way, bad luck Brian. These are all memes that weren't really vibing. Some of the runners on my bed, it could have been dead. My diarrhea at 7-Eleven was more explosive than 9/11 in Ohio. I'm getting real life crits, putting together all my wits.
Throughout the duration of this video, I've talked about each of the songs one by one individually. This time, we have 3 songs, however, either due to them not being too noteworthy, too long, or not being completed. Those songs being House Pavement, Melting Cody, and Sleepwalker. Starting with House Pavement. House Pavement is what the mod devs called a fake-out song, playing right before, I think, Aethos. The short loner song we do get with House Pavement is pretty good, actually. The song pits Marvin against the best character in SML, Mr. Goodman, going through his usual shtick of trying to collect Marvin's house payment. While the song is only like 30 seconds long, it's a pretty enjoyable 30 seconds. It's composed well, and it serves its purpose pretty well. While I do kind of wish we got a full song that pitched the player against Mr. Goodman, but whatever, oh well. The next song we have is Melting Cody. The song isn't too noteworthy, it's not anything impressive, and not in the sense as Obsolete or Winner. There's literally nothing to talk about here. The song is about melting Cody. It doesn't sound good, it doesn't sound bad, it's pretty decent. I only bring it up because, well, it's on the Aethos / Irida wiki, and most of the songs I've talked about come from there, so yeah. Also, don't bring up AVI or Pathos. And the last song we have is Sleepwalker, a song based on Jeffy's favorite song, an episode where Jeffy plays a song so much that it summons a giant evil bunny that comes and kills Marvin at the end of the episode. So yeah, the song itself is unfinished, like extremely unfinished, to the point where there's only like a 17-second clip of the song. From the tiny taste of the song we did get, it does sound pretty good. I'm pretty sure it's been confirmed that Sleepwalker isn't returning in any capacity, like ever, because the original devs didn't even want the song in the mod to begin with, so that kind of sucks. The idea of the song is actually pretty interesting too. It's one of the only pieces of horror to actually come from an official SML episode. Well, besides Shucks, but come on, obviously. Now, I'm not going to rank these on the tier list because they're so unremarkable, I think it'd be a waste of time. Plus, I think this video is long enough, which means we only have one more song, so let's get into it. Woo!
I emancipated the slaves, ended the Civil War while I felt like days. But now it's come so clear, sir, you're gonna shoot me in the theater.
And finally, we have Irida, which is the equivalent to Aethos. Irida is just a better composed version of Aethos by tenfold. Aethos is such a mess of a song that it's very difficult to listen to, while Irida, on the other hand, is an earworm and a half. Irida does everything Aethos did, but a lot better, especially the art style changes. With Aethos' art style changes, they looked very sloppy and ugly, yet when Irida changes its art style, it goes from the puppets to the real art style to this cartoonish one, which then gets corrupted by Evil Jimmy, then returns to the actual art style very seamlessly and very pleasing compared to Aethos, which just looks very tacky and very distracting. The song itself is also really good, again, unlike Aethos. The chromatics are distinct from each other, the melody is real nice, it's composed well, it's memorable, and overall it's just a really good song. There's this huge sense of epicness throughout. I think Irida the song speaks for Irida the mod in general. Most of the songs that originated in Aethos that came over to Irida have been improved upon. Irida was always meant to be an improvement of Aethos, and it's very clear. While both mods eventually met the same fate, Irida is remembered more fondly than Aethos, mostly due to a certain person being attached to Aethos, but that's besides besides the point.
Worse than Hitler when he did the World War II and killed all of those guys.
Irida just has a better lineup of songs. They might not be originals, but the way they were transformed make them their own separate things from their Aethos counterparts. And that's what Irida the song feels like, a separation from Aethos. One was a really bad song, transformed into one of the best in the OST. While the praise I gave Irida might seem like it puts it in the S tier is for songs that are so outstanding, I have no choice to praise them into oblivion. While Irida is a really good song, it doesn't have the emotion of Revenant's lyrics or the staying power of E.X.Ecretion. Again, a really great song and definitely deserving of an A tier. And with that, we come to the end of the video. Ah, you thought I forgot about Shucks? Well, fuck you! Because I already talked about Shucks in its own video, this is going to be an extra part of the video. Instead of talking about Shucks itself, I'm going to be quickly correcting everything, well, mostly everything I got wrong in the original video. Starting with the smaller stuff, one thing that I got wrong was some SML lore. In the original video, I said Junior burnt down the house, which then led to the characters getting the house that does bad things guy gave to them. However, the first house fire led them to the apartment that they got kicked out of. After getting kicked out, that's what led them to the house that they got from Does Bad Things Guy. Very slight mistake, but still noteworthy, I guess. Another thing some people mistook from the original video was thinking that I thought version 2 is better than version 5. Version 2 is not better, and no, I don't think version 5 is bad. I stated this multiple times throughout the video, I guess people just don't know how to listen. On that topic, some people thought that I said Sling made Shucks. Never said this. Never even hinted at this. Sling had made the lyrics, which he had joked about on Twitter that they were his self-insert, which again, I'm pretty sure was a joke, but again, Sling didn't make Shucks. Never said that. I said he made the lyrics because he did, which he also sang in the very first version, which then leads me to not bringing up the very first version. This is because I thought version 1 was way too similar to version 2, and because I hadn't listened to version 1 of Shucks. Only after making that video did I, and after that, I can say without a doubt, version 1 of Shucks is the best version. Some people were also disappointed with me not talking about version 3 and version 4 for very long. That's because, again, the whole point of that section of the video was to compare the two most prevalent versions of Shucks, which were version 2 and version 5. And the last thing I got wrong is so minor, I almost didn't mention it, and that's Picture Perfect and Premonition are Secret Door songs and not versions of Shucks. Counterpoint, they wouldn't have existed without Shucks, which means I'm still technically right, so fuck you. Alright, now you may be thinking, oh, it's the end of the video. No, it's not. I still got things that I want to say about Shucks. That's right, I have more to say about this fucking song. That's how much of a Shucks fan I am. I'm so much of a Shucks fan, I even cut off my own arm. I'm also going to be talking about Shucks lyrics. Shucks lyrics technically fall under one of three categories. Either one, they're different covers of the already existing Shucks lyrics, either done by a different actor or are remixed differently. The second category is similar to the first, but instead of having the already existing lyrics, they make up new ones while still following the same melody of the I'll Watch As You Bleed / My Mind lyrics. And the lyrics that fall under category 3 change the lyrics almost completely, having a different melody and different tone in general. Songs that fall under this category include covers like Doorway to Hell, and I can't believe I didn't mention this in the last video, Shucks Requiem, a really fucking banger of a mix, which is criminally underrated. Go show the creator some love. There's also some covers that I didn't mention in the original people that the original people, can you smell what the rock is cooking? There's also some covers I didn't mention in the original video that some people mentioned in the comments that technically fall under their own separate category, with most of the time being the same lyrics, just with, again, covers, like more Shucks. But for the most part, they're almost always the same lyrics, just slightly changed to fit the character who's covering the song. So this part of the script was added after I already finished recording, but I wanted to add this part for one of two reasons. One, many people wanted me to talk about Shucks with lyrics, and two, Shucks with lyrics V5 came out like a few days ago, so obviously I was going to talk about it. If it wasn't obvious, we'd talk about Shucks with lyrics being made by LukeGoji. Shucks with lyrics is a cover of Shucks that adds lyrics throughout the entire song instead of just being the simple I'll Watch As You Bleed, with two versions. The first one covering version 3 and the second cover covering version 5. I don't want to take up too much of your time talking about fucking Shucks of all things, so I'll keep my coverage of these two videos pretty brief. First of all, Both of them are really good. I think that's a given, of course. It's Shucks, of course it's good. Both of these videos made me appreciate each of the separate versions of Shucks, especially version 5, a lot more than I would normally. While I still think version 5 is better than version 2, I still think version 5 isn't up to par compared to version 3 or 4. And going back to listening to it after the lyrics, it definitely grew on me a lot more, especially the part that I illustrated in the last video as not sounding distinct enough. Now that I've listened to the song over and over again, I can confirm it's actually pretty good. Going back to the lyrics, I think I prefer version 5 slightly over version 3. Ever since it came out a few days ago, I've been listening to it non-stop, even more than I did with version 3 when that came out. While both of them sound really good, version 5 is on a whole new level.
Look what you've done now, how now you're having a bigger run. Now you'll take the sun to your grave. Cry your son, you said that you're never peak inside. Cause no heartbeat never stopped me from resigning from what's gonna be of your valley. Never want this to be when you did it too. But I don't want nuisance to suggest saying this was on you. And I told you so. I won't let you go. Now read what you sold. Now your fate's set in stone.
This is one of the Shucks variations that I actually forgot to talk about in the original video, and I wanted to bring up in this video just because, well, I think it's one of the best things to come out of Shucks itself. And with that, I think it's about time we actually end this fucking video. Jesus Christ. Also, Shucks obviously falls into S tier. Come on, it was named after Shucks. Of course it goes there. Both Jeffy's Infiniteirida and Endless Aethos are some of the most influential, hyped, and tragic FNF mods out there. Lots of drama, lots of hardships, lots of disappointments, all caused by mostly one man. I think Aethos and Irida are fascinating projects to look back on. Every day something seemed to go wrong, whether it be due to leaks or infighting within the devs. There's no peace for either of these mods. Despite that fact, there are still a bunch of people who are dedicated to finishing this project that unfortunately never did, and in all likeliness never will. While there's been a few attempts to bring back Irida, I called it Irida again. Oh my god, I called it Irida again. No! God damn it.
No, oh my god, young man, kill yourself!
While there's been a few attempts to bring Irida back, they've all gone up in flames, like mostly due to one man, but again, that's besides the point. This was definitely a very interesting video to make, not only because of how much I love Irida and its songs, but also just due to how many of these songs kind of take on a life of their own. With a few exceptions, all the songs from both Aethos and Irida were decent enough to very, very good, even containing one of my favorite Friday Night Funkin' songs. But I think it's about time we actually end this video, because 1, I'm tired, and 2, I don't know how long this is, but I'm guessing like 40 fucking minutes, whatever. I don't know, fuck off. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
No heartbeat never stopped me from resigning from what's gonna be of your valley. Never want this to be when you did it too. But I don't want nuisance to suggest saying this was on you. And I told you so.